Welcome to the Mint Door Podcast with Dr. Karen Tyndall and Dr. Laura Schwint.
Welcome to today's episode of the Mint Door Podcast. Before we begin, we're excited to introduce you to Refresh, a transformative monthly training program designed specifically for dental professionals facing team conflicts, communication barriers, and burnout. This program is your key to unlocking a purpose-driven, fulfilling life both in and out of the office.
Refresh offers practical tools and strategies to overcome stress and barriers, helping you tap into your energy and activate your true potential. Our monthly sessions are tailored to guide you in embracing your journey and excelling in all aspects of life.
And there's more. Join our weekly open coaching sessions for deeper insights, peer connections, and expert advice. As life coaches with rich dental backgrounds, we're here to help you discover and confidently use your unique talents every day.
Also, gain unlimited access to our extensive library of recorded modules from Refresh and guest industry experts. This treasure trove of resources is at your fingertips to help you transition from a stagnant state to a flourishing life full of purpose and joy.
Refresh is your catalyst for a transformative journey professionally and personally.
So welcome to the Mint Door Talk It Out podcast, where we today are asking, we know ourselves, right? But to understand our strengths, the ways we naturally think, feel, and behave provides remarkable insights on where to best direct our energies and set ourselves up for joyful success. The Gallup's organization's CliftonStrengths assessment is an amazing tool that helps users understand their strengths.
And today, Leanne, Burnett, and Valerie Menzel are here as partners in a company called Strengths Savvy. The goal of their business is to use the Gallup training to help coach individuals and corporate teams to understand and leverage their strengths and the strengths of those around them, leading to improved understanding and interdependence of the colleagues and the team.
Leanne has previously been head of HR in both the financial services and pharmaceutical industries and is the mother of 4 daughters. Valerie has a background in communications and previously worked leading corporate teams, and she is the mother of 2 sons. So let's get savvy with your strengths as we talk it out with Leanne and Valerie.
Well, hello, Mint Door listeners. We are so excited to bring you Strength Savvy with Leanne and Valerie today. You guys, we've been able to see your magic several times at the Do Retreat. We've stayed connected. So we just want to say how honored we are that you are here with us on our podcast today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're
We're very honored to be here. It's such a treat. So glad that you enjoy strengths too, because Valerie and I can't get enough of it.
That's so true. We kind of geek out over it, as you know. So,
well, it's a game changer, and so that's why I think this is so awesome to bring this, because I think that anybody that hasn't experienced the magic of strengths, today's podcast will highlight that for them. So
Terrific.
yeah. So that just leads right into my first question, which is, how can understanding your unique strengths through tools like the CliftonStrengths assessment benefit people both personally and professionally?
Valerie, do you want to start?
I can start.
Go ahead.
So we have seen it change lives. We've seen it change organizations. We've seen it change teams. We've seen it change marriages. Life is all about relationships, relationship with ourselves and relationship with others. We are in relationship with 24/7, right? So what the strengths psychology teaches you and what it's all about is understanding yourself, having that self-awareness of the way you're wired, how you naturally feel, think, and behave. And then also understanding that you are wired completely differently than the person next to you. And when you have that understanding, all of a sudden the light bulbs go off, and there's the ability to be compassionate and tolerant and appreciate that someone else is coming from this from a different angle than you are. I always tell people, we're sitting in this room together, but we're all experiencing this differently based on how we're wired. And when you understand that, I think it changes your perspective and it enables people to be kinder, which for me is what my mission is, right? Is to bring understanding and kindness to the world. So we see that, it enables you to communicate better. It enables you to appreciate people. It enables you to work together better in harmony with somebody because you understand that they see it differently or they need things differently than you do. So it changes everything. It can change all aspects of your life. And that's what we really love about it. It's not just something you use in the workplace. It's something that you can absolutely use to make better decisions for yourself, parent better, get along better with your spouse, get along better with your coworkers, decide, what volunteer thing is right for me, make better decisions for yourself, and give people grace. So that's another big piece of it.
I'm going to jump in and add to that. And one of the things that I really like about strengths is also letting go of the things that you're not so good at. And one of the things that was really kind of hit me so hard was when I did my full strengths and found out that executionally that is not my strong suit. So, and I execute all the time, and all the jobs that I'd been at in the past were jobs that output, 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 output. And what I discovered was that's just not how I'm wired. I'm not wired to do a lot of all that output. I'm an influencer, I'm a relational, I'm a thinker, but the executional piece of me is my weakest piece. And it actually really helped me to understand some of the successes and failures that I've had in my life and why I was good at certain things and not so good at certain things. And one of the ways I like to think is that each of us is a little unique puzzle piece with all of our little sharp edges and rounded edges. And there are places that puzzle piece will fit in really nicely and make a beautiful picture. And there are places where you can just try to shove those corners in, and it's going to be ugly. It's not going to feel good. And so it's helped me to recognize that in situations that are going to require a lot of output, you have to do some of them sometime, of course, but not to gravitate toward that. And also not to try to say, and for people who are familiar with strengths, one of them is called discipline. My discipline is dead last. So I tend to be disorganized and I tend to not to do things in advance and, all these sorts of things. So I could say in my life, I'm going to really, really work on that. I'm bad at that. I want to work on it. And strength psychology is the opposite energy. They're saying, you're bad at that. They never say that. They say it's a lesser strength, but what I know is that it's not a great thing for me. So other people are really good at it and they love it. And so I partner with those folks who love to do those things, which frees me up because I have other gifts and those gifts are beautiful. And it frees me to do those things that align with how I naturally think, feel, and behave. And it's so freeing. And it also, when you do those things, your rocket takes off. You're doing things that align with how you are, and you don't have to swim against the current to get them done. It feels great to do them. So those are some of the ways that we really, we feel that everyone benefits from this.
I'm going to say, as I sit here, I can almost forget that I'm on my own podcast. And I'm just learning, and I could have felt like I was listening to you guys present. I was so taken in by it, and it then just promotes so many thoughts in my head, like, oh, I need to go back and I need to look at all of my strengths again and what was in the middle and what was at the bottom, because it's easy to remember what's at the top. So it always makes me want to go back and search through. But you guys have got so much experience of supporting people and helping people uncover their strengths that I wondered if each of you maybe have an example of an aha moment, a significant breakthrough, or just a story of when it really made a big difference to an individual or a team that you've each worked with.
Oh my gosh, there's so many stories. We learn something every time we do a session. We have ahas in every session we've done.
I'll throw one in, and I'll give you one about my own husband, actually. And I did my strengths, and and this really helped the two of us. I did mine. I was really interested to see what his were. So one of my higher strengths is futuristic, and Michael's lower in that. One of his high strengths is context, which is more of a historical perspective. I look ahead, he tends to look back. And I didn't respect it. Because I look ahead, I was like, why are we talking about yesterday's news? It was not interesting to me. And so for so much of our marriage, I would just kind of roll my eyes when he would tell me that this was the day this country got invaded or whatever, because I didn't appreciate that. Once I found out that that was how he was wired, I realized that I need to change how I think about that. And so I stopped and I listened to him, and I actually learned a few things, which was fabulous. But in addition to Michael doing it, when he actually was taking a class in it at the time, and he came back and he said, these were the things that everybody told me my whole life were wrong with me, and they were his strengths. And so what it is that sometimes we don't appreciate some of those things. Like one of his high strengths is input. So he's a researcher. He'll like open up the internet and he'll go down. He's a lawyer, so he will find obscure cases and stuff like that. And sometimes it took him a really long time to get there, but he would find something that like cracked the case. But and so those were some of the things that him taking a long time to do those things were things that some people didn't appreciate until it really was helpful to them. But he's a thinker. He's a strategic thinker primarily. And so these were some ways where he felt really validated, because he realized that instead of feeling like, gosh, this is something I got to change, it was like, no, I need to actually really fit myself into places that love this about me, because it's who I am and it's what I bring to the world. And he's a fantastic lawyer, and he's so good at so many things, but yet he had these sort of traits that his puzzle piece was in the wrong spot.
I'll bring up a personal one too. I have a good work one, but also in my personal life, I had my son take this when he was 17, and 17-year-old boys could care less. They don't want to be bothered. Didn't even look at it. He threw it at me. He walked out of the room. I opened it up and I was like, oh my gosh, how is it that I've raised this child for 17 years and I don't even know who he is? Like, this is crazy. It was such a huge aha moment, because he is an adaptability number one. So he flies by the seat of his pants. He gets energized by last minute pressure of, being up against the deadline. And I'm a maximizer and an achiever. So I like to get things done way ahead of time. And, I want it to be organized and orderly, and do your best. If you're going to go out there, start practicing 6 months ahead of time before you get there, so you're your best. And he was always like, yeah, mañana, 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 I'll get there at the last minute, turned his application in for college 2 seconds before the deadline. It was like, and I'm sweating the whole time, So growing up, you can imagine, we were always going like this. And it was at that moment that the light bulbs went off in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, now I get it. My way is never going to be his way, and vice versa. He is wired completely differently than I am. And he's going to get there. He's going to get to point B just like me, but he's going to get there differently. And it completely changed our relationship. It was like day and night, because I then understood that he wasn't trying to, be defiant. He wasn't trying to drive me crazy. He wasn't trying to be difficult. He just was wired differently. His process was different. His brain works differently. And it just enabled us to get along. Like, our relationship made a 180. We completely got along differently after that, because I respected that he was different than I was. And it was one of the biggest learning moments I think I had as a mother. I wish I had known it earlier. We assume our children are little mini versions of us, and they're not. So even as a mother, this is so powerful to understand your children and what their needs are. And like when we work with managers, we say, that to be a really great manager, you need to manage people the way they need to be managed, not the way you need to be managed. And it's the same concept with parenting, right? So, this is how I need to operate in the world, but I have to be aware of that he needs to operate differently. So, but I have other stories too, so that I can share, but we'll move on from here. And I'll
Well,
excuse.
I'd actually like to throw one professional one in there. There's a couple of teams at a company that we've worked quite a bit with. And, we did our base session is called Supercharge Your Strengths, where we just help people to learn what the concepts are, help to understand their own strengths, and learn about the strengths of their team members. But they asked us back on several occasions to help with certain issues, like perhaps a team not gelling or things like that. And what we've done is really help to identify what's happening and work on unique, customized ways to really help those team members get past those things, always using strengths as our foundation. And so again, we build on the fact it's when you first learn about strengths, your head's kind of swimming because it's a lot of information. But the opportunity to come back and work more deeply with them was really gratifying, because we did certain exercises to help them really drill down and see what it is about their team members that is unique and special and how they differ. And we did things where they were, showing appreciation to one another, and where they were sharing things about each other, again, all based on the foundation of strengths. And it really helped the team really develop psychological safety with each other.
Mhm.
And so when you recognize that people are different from you, and you stop being triggered by the differences and start appreciating the differences and understanding that, okay, they may not think like me on this, but they think this way, but I might use that way in some other ways. And so we encourage that partnership to take place, and they develop this interdependence where, instead of being frustrated about those differences, they learn to leverage those differences within the team. And it's a beautiful thing. And it helps, to me, I always do this when I'm talking about it, because you sort of weave a fabric with a team where they're building and relying on each other and understanding and leveraging those talents that each team member brings. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we had this wonderful comment. I'm thinking about that session we did last August in DC. It was a summit. And the VP came to us and she's like, for the first time, I feel hopeful after your session. There was such a breakthrough where people felt heard and people felt comfortable speaking. That psychological safety piece cannot be emphasized enough. And strengths really dovetails beautifully into creating that.
Well, you bring up so many good points in those stories, and thank you for sharing all of those examples. But, you can really change the trajectory of somebody's life, because like you said, if you're feeling bad about the things the strengths that are low on your list, or you're feeling bad because you're in the wrong area for your strengths, that can really affect your life in the world. And then I think about how you're helping everybody collaborate together, and that could change the world.
Yeah. Well, one of the work ones I was going to share is we had these two people who couldn't get along. They had to work side by side. They were partners and they could not get along. And it was because one was an activator. She wanted, everything done immediately. The other guy was a deliberative. He needed time to process and mull over it and look for the risks and minimize the risks and then decide what to do. And once we explained this to them, they were like, oh, I get it. I want answers right away. He wants to give me answers in 5 months, so let's compromise. Let's say we're going to give each other answers in 3 days, so it enabled them to work together. It enabled them to say, okay, wait a minute, let's take a pause here. Let's figure this out. This is what you need. This is what I need. How can we how can we work together? Like Leanne said, how can we be interdependent and collaborate in a way that makes us both soar? And that's basically what you're doing, is you're enabling people. Gallup has all this research. This is based on 5 decades of research. This is not some airy-fairy weird thing that somebody came up with. It's based in scientific, your brain literally lights up when you're operating in your strengths. They've proven this. They have science to prove it. And their research shows that people are more engaged, people are happier, people are more loyal, people are more productive if they're able to do what they do best on a regular basis. So when you're in a situation in an office, and this, for all our dental friends out there, think about it. You have somebody who's at the front desk and it goes against who she really is, or he, they're not going to thrive there. You can try all you want. You can try to manipulate this, that, and the other thing, give them tools or whatever. But if they're not naturally good with people, if they're not naturally that person who's going to be welcoming at the front desk, it's not going to work. And maybe they're better off being in the back doing something else. You know what I mean? Like, so we see this over and over and over again, that once people understand, oh, now I get it. This is not where I'm at my best. This is not where I contribute the most. This is not where I shine. And if you can direct yourself and others that you're working with to those places, it makes a huge difference.
And I find also that it helps to set expectations. I'm going to bring one up that's going to involve you lovely ladies here. So I have secret access to all of the Do Ladies reports. So I have yours in front of me. So I'm just noticing right now, both of you have high empathy. So Laura, you have it as your number 2, and Karen, you have it as your number 6. So that both of those are very high. So you two women lead with your heart. And so one of the things that I always look at is, where's the analytical when I see high empathy or high analytical? Because those two can be foils, they can be opposites. And so Laura, your analytical is number 32, so it's third from the bottom. And Karen, your analytical is 22, so yours is a little higher. But one of the things is analyticals are logic minded. They lead with their minds. So you can go to somebody who's analytical, and you two empathy women, high empathy women, are pretty focused on how people feel, how you feel, how certain things are going to make other people feel. You are heart led. And if you have to get an answer, or if you have to make headway with somebody who's an analytical, you can go to that analytical person and you can tell them how you feel or how the other person feels. And they may try to pretend that they care, but they kind of don't. The feelings are not really that critical to how they make decisions. How they make decisions is based on data and logic and trends. And so they want to feel they want to understand why should I do this based on things that have happened before, things that, what are the trends, what's going on in the world that makes a difference. And your feelings aren't going to factor in for them. And so people who are high empathy can get their feelings hurt, because when you talk about how you feel and somebody seems unconcerned about that, that's going to be hurtful to you. And so whenever we know that there's this, I was coaching somebody recently who had somebody who was clearly an analytical in terms of how I just said, you're high empathy, so you should just be on guard that you're not going to get all the feels that you're going to want from this person. You're going to have to go in with data, and you're going to have to just change your expectation, because they're not trying to be mean or rude. It comes off as rude, though, for somebody who doesn't have that. But if they're swimming in a pool of a bunch of analyticals, they're just abrupt, they're sharp, they say what's on their mind, and nobody gets their feelings hurt. But if they're swimming with empathies, there's a lot of discord because they just come at the world differently. And so, and I actually have an example where my husband was pitching a business to somebody, and as he was describing the decision maker, I'm like, high deliberative, high analytical. And again, this was a feeling thing. It was like a very emotional thing that was going on that had to be treated. And I'm like, you can't talk about that. You got to talk about how other people have done this, and this is the success they had. And when he took that tack, the guy signed on the dotted line immediately, and it went forward. And so you can use it to reach people in ways they can hear. That's the and to shield yourself from hurt if there's a situation like I just described.
That is brilliant. I think, Karen, we need to have a podcast with these guys once a week and just talk about their strengths.
Or we should just do a coaching session with you guys. That's what we need to do.
Yeah,
that would be so fun. I have
a coaching session.
Yes.
I have so many questions.
I know.
Especially how, when you put two people together, how their strengths are working together. Like, are Laura and I maximizing our strengths in the things that we're doing? And we probably think we are, but it would be really interesting to dive into that to see as business partners. And this is where, it's kind of an exciting podcast for us, because it's two women, two groups of two women who are business partners. And we were interested to know, because we can't log on and look at your two strengths because that isn't within our realms of capabilities. But how do you two leverage your strengths in your business? And, what does that help you do?
Oh my
Great
gosh.
question. Valerie, I'll let you start.
Well, we like to say that Leanne and I have a beautiful marriage. We don't like to tell our husbands that, but we do, because we have opposite talents, but we have some that we share. And what's really interesting is that we did not go into our partnership knowing this. Like, it was not something that we were cognizant of. Like, we weren't looking for that perfect, synergy.
We didn't know enough then.
Yeah, we were totally newbies, and we really didn't know enough to realize that we were really great partners. We set ourselves up for a great partnership because, I'm the executor, Leanne is not. Leanne is more the influencer, I am not. So the things I'm really good at, those aren't her favorite things, and the things that I can do well are not her favorite things. So we balance each other out beautifully. We really do have this wonderful complementary situation going on. And the funniest part about it is that, we were just telling you guys this at the Do Retreat this year, is that we recently realized that I have a communications degree, yet Leanne is really the salesperson. And Leanne has an accounting degree, and yet I'm the person who does all the accounting, because she's not disciplined and she doesn't like little scraps of paper and trying to log things into the, spreadsheets or whatnot. But we're both maximizers, number one. So one of the things that we share is that we want to be the best. We want things to be their best. And so we're, it can be a negative in that we do tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak, but we do appreciate that about each other. And, we like to perfect things. And, when I get done doing something, I hand it off to Leanne and she polishes it up a little bit more, because that's what she loves to do. So we have found ways to, maximize how we work. And what we do is we basically sort of like, the things I'm good at doing, I do. The things that she's good at doing, she does. We balance each other out really beautifully, and it wasn't even intentional, which is why it was such a God moment that we found each other. It really was. And, it's interesting because we've worked together for 7 years now, we have a comfort with each other. Like Leanne she's very last minute. She's, got ideation, and she's brilliant, and she does things, but it's all at the last minute usually. And I need to get things done ahead of time, right? So, you would think that would be a real issue, but what we've done is we sort of intuitively figured out a way to make it work. Like I'll do a lot of the prep work, and then I hand it off to her, and she'll be up all night the night before, finishing it off, polishing it up, doing her thing. And I can just like have peace about it, that it's going to be fine, because I trust her. And I know that she's going to do a great job, and it's going to be fine. But if I didn't know her, and I didn't know enough about her talents and how she operates, then I don't know that I would have been able to do that, So, but it's been funny now that we keep seeing these things about each other, and we know enough to say, oh gosh, sorry, I'm in the basement of that talent. You have to forgive me, because my achiever sometimes wants to get things done, and Leanne's like, well, I just want to go have a good time. We'll talk about it later, So it's all good, though.
It's interesting because just to get some of the particulars, one thing that I'm high in, as Valerie mentioned, is ideation, and that's one of her lower strengths. And so when we have a problem that we have to solve, like for instance, clients that want something custom, we'll get on the phone, and like I always describe ideation as having popcorn in your brain. It's like an idea will happen, like when the heat goes on and one kernel pops and the next one, and then suddenly like they're all popping. That's what happens inside of my head when we are trying to tackle something. And so, but it's so interesting because I'll have all these ideas, but I honestly don't feel really solid in them until I'm on the phone with Valerie, even though that is not her strong suit. I call her the popcorn bowl to my popcorn brain. It's like the popcorn comes flying out, and she's running around catching the good pieces, and letting the bad ones, the burnt ones, fall to the ground. And it's that way we work together when we're developing something that's customized, that's unique. That is really interesting to me, that how our strengths work together, because Valerie is so grounded and so grounding. And I'm kind of a little more all over the place, but together we have this, that those poles come together into this wonderful magnet that sticks together and makes it all work. And we really have such an enjoyable time working together. It's fun and delightful. And I always say, Valerie is married to a man whose top strength is discipline, and she's business partners with a woman whose last strength is discipline. So she has to be the Gumby, the bendy that has to, in her personal life, everything's probably going to have to be a lot more precise. And in our life, she's going to have to adapt to like, it's going to be like 2 a.m. before the 8 a.m. meeting, but she's going to trust that it's going to be okay. So it's an interesting, fun thing. It really is. We have such a lovely time working together.
Yeah. Well, and having been at several of your workshops, I would say that, yeah, you guys always deliver. So it is a beautiful partnership. And I'm curious, speaking of your workshops, because we talk about strengths, and for some people, like, you naming these strengths sounds a little foreign. They don't even know what this is. And then there is also then that next step where you know your strengths. Now what? And how do we interplay with the people in our lives? So would you maybe just highlight some of the workshops and the bespoke ways that you work with individuals, with teams, with corporations, and just so our listeners know what it is you guys really do?
Yeah, I mean, well, just so people know, they can go on Gallup.com and take the Clifton Strengths assessment. You do not have to, have some special VIP pass to get there. Anyone can take it. It's an online assessment. It takes about 45 minutes. And
it's $60 to take. It's $60 to take the all 34 one, which is the one that we would recommend you taking, so that you get the complete information. Go ahead, Valerie. Sorry to interrupt.
Right. So, it's this online assessment. It spits out these wonderful reports that are really, really detailed and custom, and they actually have this amazing algorithm. So they're unique to you, which is fascinating, because it's crazy how, there are 34 talents that they've broken them down into, and, it's 1 in 33 million chance that you'll have the same top 5 as somebody else in the same order. I mean, that's just like mind-boggling how unique and how special we all are. But so, you can take the assessment, and that's good. You can see the reports, and that's great. You can dig online. You can learn about each of them. There are, videos, and Gallup has all kinds of content out there. However, what we've learned is if you don't sit down with a coach, a strengths coach, who walks you through those results and explains how this interplays and how this works, it's like you don't get all the magic. You don't get all the goodies, right? It's like, we've seen this at a company we went to. We were at a session for a banking firm, and one of the ladies came up to us afterwards and she says, I took this at my last organization, and they just had us take the assessment, and I just we stuck it in a drawer, and I never looked at it again. I never had any insights until I had your session, until I went through one of your workshops. And I think that's because you have to work with somebody who really knows what they're talking about. We've also heard of, sometimes companies will say, the HR folks can cover this, but unless they really know the material, they're really doing a disservice to these people. We had a company, a really large one that I won't name names, but they had their people take it. They had someone in their HR department just, walk people through it. And she didn't understand the whole concept. And she actually told them the opposite. She had people walking away feeling badly about how they were wired, as opposed to the whole point of strength psychology is to embrace what's great about you and do more of that, so that you're even, flying higher, right? And then leverage what you don't have high with somebody who does. So it was such a sad thing to us that they had sessions with this person who didn't know what she was talking about, and she led everybody astray, and they missed the boat entirely. So what it is that our sessions walk people through understanding the 34 in depth. And then we do a bunch of activities. It's all interactive. We like to have a lot of fun. We laugh. And people always say, oh my gosh, we had so much fun, but we learned so much. We hear that all the time. So we do try to make it fun and uplifting. We want people to walk away feeling really good about who they are, sort of falling in love with themselves, and then having understanding about everyone around them. So we do activities so that they can learn about each other and how the other people on the team are wired as well.
And we also work with the leadership teams a lot so that they can understand the people that they manage. There was one group that we did that had there was over 100 people that were in the company who did our sessions, and that we got together, and so many of them were high individualization. So these are people who are willing to customize for individuals. They don't necessarily like to follow a set path. If there is something unique and individual about somebody, they want to help bring it out, and they want to they're very observant, and they notice things about individual people. And so just knowing that those people were high individualization and probably don't like a lot of guardrails. They like to have more freedom with what they choose to do because they care about the individuals, and sometimes this one will need more and this one may need a little less or whatever. They like to have that freedom. But just, I remember talking to that management team, and that became a big topic of conversation. Like, look at the breakdown of your group. You have so many with high individualization. We did a team recently where almost everybody is high relator. And high relators really relate well to each other, but they like to keep their circle very small. And sometimes that can come off as cliquish, or that, you know, they don't want to include everybody. And it's, again, all these things are valid. It's just how they're wired. But when everybody's like that, you can imagine that maybe this group likes this, you know. And so when we were with the group, we were just like, I want you all to know that you're all real, like almost down to the last person had really high relator. And so we're just saying you might have tendencies to do this. So be aware, and be aware that you may not want to indulge that piece of your relator. You may want to just really try to be more inclusive. And if you feel a little bit like you're getting somebody's back instead of their front, you know, if somebody's turning away from you, it's natural for them, and they're not trying to be hurtful. And so just, you know, to get that understanding going so that people really get it and can, and you know, really can understand each other. I know we did some special exercises. We developed some special exercises for relators so that they would all know, and kind of break some of those divides that might naturally happen. I do want to tell you, ladies, one thing. You have 6 of your top 10 together. You both have strategic, futuristic, empathy, positivity, developer, and connectedness in your top 10. That's a lot, 6 out of 10. So you probably see eye to eye on a lot of things. So I would imagine, you definitely have some different things as well. But those things you're going to really feel similarly, which is great. You both have a lot of really the things that you both are really strategic and futuristic. So your thinky pieces are definitely there. But I see a lot of overlap in your heart areas, your relational areas. And so I'm sure that is something that really helps you to just gel together beautifully, because you have a kindred spirit in each other, and in those really important relational ways. Is that true for you all?
Very true. 100%.
Yeah. We should have compared this before now, Laura, really.
I know. Well, we have, but I love Leanne, the popcorn, because I think I'm the popcorn brain, and I think Karen is the ball.
Yes.
Is that right? Yes.
Yeah.
Your popcorn is number 16, which is still high.
Yeah.
And Karen has some higher, she's got high responsibility. And I remember talking about that at a do retreat that one time. And Valerie has high responsibility too. So their high responsibility is very practical. Like, how are we going to get this idea going? Like, that's a great idea, but, you know, and put some real legs to it, because I've had so many things. I've had so many of my ideas were actual $1 million earning ideas. It's just somebody else did them. Had the idea, I never did anything with it. Somebody else did, and they made a lot of money. And so, so at any rate, having that executional person in your orbit helps you to take some of those ideas and make them happen. Really, really important to make them actually happen.
Yeah. So some of the other sessions that we do, just to answer your question, I realize we haven't finished answering your question. So we've also done sessions for students, helping kids who are graduating from high school or college, like, what do I do with my life? Explaining to them their strengths so that they have these tools that they can make better decisions for themselves. Because once you combine what you're good at with how you're wired, you've got gold. So we have a session for kids. We've done sessions for leaders and managers, how to best manage people utilizing the strengths. Like I said earlier, how do I get not the most out of my people? How do I get the best out of my people is what we tell them. So we do managers, we do leaders, we do kids. We've also done women's groups. We love to do those. Women are so much fun to be with. And, it's always great to have that girl time when they bond together in a certain way. So those are really wonderful. And we've done families and couples because if, couples can have issues, and if they have the same common language to speak from, it makes things easier to communicate. And I've done family sessions, and Leanne has done family sessions, because that dynamic, once you understand everybody and where everybody's coming from, it's easier to get along. So one year, a friend of mine had me as a Christmas present get together with her whole family that we met on over Christmas break. We had lunch, there was and we did a session all afternoon, and it was amazing. And it, again, just helping people get along and communicate better and understand each other more.
It makes me think, all the different ways that you can help people. And I know that there's a statistic that I read recently that something like 80+% of youngsters looking for jobs now really want a place where they feel that their well-being is a priority. And it just makes me think that what you do and celebrating everyone's strengths, learning how to work together, really enhances fulfillment, not just personally, but professionally, which, if a company is doing that, if they're bringing you in to help people discover their strengths and learn how to use them and learn how to get along, that really can enhance that piece of fulfillment and happiness. Do you see that when you transition from a team or a business that didn't know anything about strengths to now they do?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
in a word, yes. We've really seen people who kind of maybe are having some issues with each other and maybe feeling a little crabby with their colleagues come out and just say, like, oh my gosh, like, I understand them so much more, and feel that they've been understood too. I'm thinking of one person in particular who, this person had a little bit of an edge to them. Some of the strengths can be a little edgy, and I think they were feeling like people were taking it in a way that they didn't intend and things like that. And so just what we really put it out there and just said, these are some of the things that happen with somebody who has these strengths. And it just I think that I really felt that person just almost feel like, oh my gosh, like I can put my armor down a little bit because I am, there's an explanation for why, I may feel like a little bit of an outlier in this group, and that they can at least understand that I care, and I'm just going to express things differently than, these other folks do. And that's okay. It really is. It is okay. As long as everybody develops an awareness, then it can get smooth, and it can get where you can even joke about it and say, like, that this is your deliberative or this is your analytical. I know you don't like deliberatives for one. They don't like to give a lot of compliments because they're very careful about risk. And so they don't want to compliment you if it's just like a momentary success. Maybe tomorrow you're going to not have that success. So they're going to wait to see that it's more consistent. And so it may be a long time before you get a compliment out of somebody who is high deliberative. And so just a little idiosyncrasy. But then when you understand that, and then everybody's like, oh, I know you don't give compliments, but blah, blah, blah. You can actually speak to it, and it can be something that is out in the open and everybody knows it, and it's okay. It's valued, actually, even. And hey, even that person, they may not give a lot of compliments, but boy, when I'm trying to make a big decision, I'm going to go to them because their decision making is so solid. So those are the types of things that come out and can really help help people feel different about themselves professionally and about their colleagues. And as we've been harping on the whole time, really develop that deep understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what, companies who invest in this and they really believe in developing their people and they want to create a strengths culture. So the managers use it in their, their performance reviews, and it's part of, how their DNA, they're trying to create that DNA in that company. We've seen that those are people that are really more successful. They're the people that, people want to work for. They're the people that their people are willing to work harder for, So when we've gone to dental offices, we've done quite a few of them now because of our association with DO. It makes a difference when people, are put in the right positions, and when the person who's in charge of everybody kind of understands, well, this person needs this and that person's going to need that, and here's who I need to partner with because I don't have that piece. Even how to approach people, how to explain something. Leanne had a brilliant coaching moment where she had, some C-suiters that were having an issue. And one of them wanted to go to the top dog and say, I've got a problem with this person and be gripey about it and complain. And Leanne said, looked at his talent. She's like, well, he loves to help people. Why don't you walk in there and say, I need your help? And it completely changed the conversation. He was not defensive. He didn't feel like she was just tattletaling. It wasn't like, it was a completely different conversation because she knew to walk in there and say, in a more vulnerable place, in a more human place, and say, I need your help. I have a problem. Can you help me? And he's like, oh, of course. What can I do? Right. It was a brilliant moment because she knew their strengths, that she could coach them into that ability to have a hard conversation, but in a beautiful way with a great outcome, So it absolutely has to do with your well-being. Everybody's well-being.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk for hours because I bet that you guys discover new things every day within this, don't you?
We totally do. I don't think we've ever had a session that I haven't had a giant aha that I come out of it with, like, oh, that's why achievers feel that way. I get it now. It really is something.
Well, it's funny, like even recently, Leanne always makes fun of me because, ideation's my last one. Ideation is high for her. And she goes, I don't believe that you don't have ideation high. That doesn't make sense. Really, like, because we love to brainstorm, and back and forth and talk about things. And we usually come up with really good ideas that way. And I just recently learned that it isn't ideation that helps me with that. It's my maximizer. Maximizer wants everything to be excellent. A maximizer is looking to take something good and make it even better. So that's the energy that I'm bringing to the party. It's not that I've got my popcorn brain. I don't have that, but I've got the maximizer piece. So you throw that in with Leanne's maximizer and her ideation and my executing piece, and then things can happen. You know what I mean? So that was a huge aha that I just figured out. And I've been doing this for 7 years, for God's sake. So, it's crazy how, we learn stuff all the time. It's remarkable. And it's so fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. People are so unique and so amazing. And there's just so many facets to all of us.
Well, you guys bring just your wealth of knowledge plus your huge capacity to want to put your stamp on the world and really make it a better place. And so if somebody is listening to this and curious and wants to dive into workshops or strengths or just even get a hold of you, what's the best way? How can people find you and explore more?
Well, our website is strengthssavvy.com. So strengths with an S and savvy. So there's 2 S's in the middle of that. So our website has a lot of information. It's got a contact form, and both of our email addresses are on there. And so that's the best way to get a hold of us. So that's so nice of you to ask, though. It's strengthssavvy.com, and individually our stuff is on there too.
Awesome.
And we do coaching. We do a lot of one-on-one coaching. Leanne does executive coaching as well. So that's a piece of it. We do workshops and we do coaching, and we do a variety of different things. So we're just, if anyone needs help, we're happy to do it. We're happy to help wherever we can.
Yeah, I love all the different ways you guys help, from teenagers to families to corporate to husband and wife, business partners. I mean, we just discovered stuff about our strengths today. So thanks for sharing that. That was
I never thought about that.
And career, I do career coaching too with people who are, in a career shift. And so that's something that is, with my HR background, I have some special skills in that area. So I never, ever, ever will career coach somebody without their strengths. Like, I need to know their strengths first and foremost. And then we weave that into their material so that when somebody needs what they have, it'll come out, they'll see it in that resume. So that's how we sort of, in a subtle way, not just list your strengths, but have them like speak the strengths through the resume, so that whoever needs those things will find what they need in that person, and they will be hiring what they need versus, something that may not come through, versus not finding what you need.
It's just endless, the possibilities with strengths.
It really is. It really is. We've found a lot of different ways to make strengths relevant in so much of what we do. But we're just big strengths fan. It's such a great assessment. It just really is. It's so deep, and it's easy. It's deep and it's easy. It's not that hard to understand once you get into it. And some of the other ones we have found, I think people just tend to like what they like, but we both like this one gratefully, and so we found a lot of people that feel the same way.
It's so it's just a really powerful tool. It's such a helpful tool with trying to figure things out, and just finding a way to make, put your best foot forward and make the most of what you've been given and the talents that you have. And if all of us do that, then the world will be a better place. If we give people the grace to do that, other people the chance to do that as well. That's sort of how we feel about it. Once people understand this, it just opens up a whole new world to them.
Yeah, well, this has been so insightful, hasn't it, Laura? That, as you said, we could go on and on and on. I'm definitely going to open up my strengths assessment again later after this, and go back through it.
Well, if you all have any questions, or if you just want to, have us chat through with you, we'd be happy to do that. We're really grateful that you had us on to your podcast today. So we've really enjoyed being here, but would love to continue the conversation if you want to talk through your strengths.
Maybe we'll do a part 2 talking through our strengths.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. That would be cool. Then your listeners can know a little bit more about the two of you. I think that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, thank you both for taking time to explain this and highlight it, and for giving this gift. I mean, these are your gifts that you're sharing with the world, bringing strengths to the world. So I'd just like to say a heartfelt thank you for what you do and how you make a difference.
Oh, thank you all, and back at you. And we really appreciate the time we spent with you all today. So take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. And we will make sure and put your links in the show notes below. So if our listeners are curious, they will be right below this interview. And please check them out, because it is, as we've highlighted, pretty life-changing. So awesome. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thanks for being here, our listeners. We hope you found some encouragement today, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Mentor Podcast. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We adore our listeners. Connect with us at thementor.net.